All right, so today we're talking about standard deviation and variance. Standard deviation or variance are descriptive numbers that are describing how close your data is together. So to find variance and standard deviation, they are related. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to find the mean of the data. Okay? And then what you're going to do is for each data point, you're going to find the difference from that data point is from the mean. Okay? And then what you're going to do is you're going to square each of those differences. You're going to then find the average or the mean of the squares. This is your variance. So this is the formula down here. So it's sigma squared equals sigma parentheses x, which is your data point, minus your mean quantity squared all over n. So this is going to add up all those differences of squares. Okay? And that gives you your variance. This will be a number. Now, if you take the square root of that, that's going to be the standard deviation. Okay? So the standard deviation is kind of talking about how far away from the mean is your data. And we'll talk more about standard deviation when we get into normal curves. So I've already put some of the information up here. So what are the mean, variance, and standard deviation for these 5 points? So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to find our mean. So we're going to add all these points together. So 6.9 plus 8.7 plus 7.6 plus 4.8 plus 9. And we're going to divide that whole thing by 5. So we get an average of 7.4. Now, when we're doing this, I created a little table here, and your book created a little table, so that way you could kind of see everything here. Okay? So I put all my data points here on the left, and then I put my mean. And all I'm going to do now is find the difference between those. So each column has their own heading. So 6.9 minus 7.4 is negative 0.5. And I continue to do that. 8.7 minus 7.4, 1.3. And I find all these differences. And then the next column, what I'm going to do is I'm going to square all those differences because I want to get rid of all these negatives here. And so I'm going to square them. So I get 2.5, 1.69, 0.04, 6.76, and 2.56. Now, this is just the square of the differences. Now, to find my variance, I have to add all these together and then divide by how many there are. So that's over here. So this is that sigma x minus the mean quantity squared over n. So I take all these values and I'm going to add them all up and divide by 5. Well, when I add all these values together, I get 11.3. 11.3 divided by 5 is 2.26. That's my variance. Now, to find my standard deviation, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the square root of this, and I'm going to get the square root of 2.26 is approximately 1.5. Now, that's doing this by hand. It takes a while to do it by hand. We only had 5 data points. And this took up a lot of space to do 5 data points. We're going to look at example 2, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of show you how to do it based on a calculator. So the TI 30s is what I'm using, but almost every scientific calculator has a way to put this into a list. So what you're going to do is you're going to come in here and you're going to go into your stat function. So for the TI 30s, you're going to go second function, data, or the SAT, and get into stat. And you're going to select one variable, okay? And so once you hit enter on that, and I'm not going to do it because I've already put some data in here. So what's going to happen is you want to enter all your data points. So you're going to hit the data button, and it'll take you to X1. And X1 is just what you're going to put in here. So I put 19, and there if you're looking at problem 2 or example 2, 19. And then the next thing is frequency. Well, how often does it occur? And so I look at my values there. Well, 19 occurs twice, so my frequency is 2. And then I'm going to go through every single data point. You could just put it as 1 and just list them all over again. I listed 15. It has a frequency of 2. And I go through until I have all the data. Okay? So once I get done, what I'm going to do is once I've entered all my data, I've gone through and I've entered every single one. I did this ahead of time. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do stat variance. And what that does is that is going to calculate all this information for us. So it's going to tell me how many different ones it is. So it starts off with n, and then you can arrow over and it has the mean, and then it has a couple other things. And then you'll see it has sigma x and here, and it lists out the variance and the standard deviation. So most of the time when we're doing standard deviation, you're going to use some type of program or Excel or a calculator to find it. It becomes very, very difficult to find this by hand if you have 100 data points or 1,000 or 10 million. We had 5 and it just takes a lot of time. So that's standard deviation and variance. All we're doing today is calculating it. We will discuss what it means a little bit later.